Hello artists, it's day 113 of the epic journey. Today we're going to have a look at subtractive drawing. I know that some people have been asking about subtractive drawing, so here it is. Subtractive drawing is one of those things that we can really sink our teeth into. We start off by covering our piece of paper with charcoal everywhere. So it's something that you can really get your hands dirty with as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to start removing charcoal. Instead of actually adding charcoal to the paper, we're going to remove from the paper. So the difference with subtractive drawing is that we're going to be removing the lights as opposed to adding the darks. Now the best thing to use to start off with would be a piece of chamois leather. That's what I've got wrapped around my finger at the moment. And I'm starting to remove the basic shape and the basic high and mid values of the face. Now there are times that I will revert to a putty rubber, of course, particularly when I want to pinch and shape the point of the putty rubber to get into smaller places. And strictly speaking, I suppose one could call it a bit of cheating. I do go and grab a piece of charcoal and add back into areas where I might have taken out a little bit too much charcoal. Yesterday we were chatting about doing a drawing as an exercise where you don't actually start with much in terms of guides. So you're not going to use a grid method or a sighting method or measuring methods or anything like that to start drawing your features. Now this subtractive drawing is actually taking that one step further. We've now got absolutely nothing with which to judge our subject. We're going purely by instinct here. So it's an incredibly good exercise for helping to train your brain to see proportions accurately first time. So I think of all the drawing methods that we are going to look at even, this is probably your most valuable training tool. Not only can you not rely on any guides whatsoever, you can't really even draw your basic shape of your face in like we were able to do with our drawings that we were doing yesterday. Not only can you not draw your basic shape of your face in, but you also are looking at your drawing from a negative aspect. So instead of looking at your darks and drawing in your darks and your mid-tone values, in this case we're going to be removing our high and mid-tone values. So you're looking at it from a completely different point of view. Now of course this method can be used to draw anything. So if you're a landscape artist, it's great because you've got lovely big skies that you can remove and play with the clouds in the skies and leave your mountains, for example, as your blacks sort of silhouetted, and it really works beautifully. Now you hear me say this so many times on the epic journey. It really does help to not think about your subject that you're drawing while you're drawing it. In other words, if I'm drawing the nose, I'm not thinking, okay, now I'm drawing the bulb of the nose, now I'm drawing the flare of the nostril, or now I'm drawing the eye. If you don't name those items in your head, whether you're doing landscape or portrait, doesn't matter what you're doing, if you don't name those things in your head, then it helps for a better drawing, because we tend to have preconceived ideas as artists about what things kind of look like. And if you name those things in your head, then you make decisions based not on what you're looking at as your source material, but rather what your preconceived ideas might be. So if you find yourself drawing something you just can't get it right, the chances are that you're falling back subconsciously onto some kind of preconceived idea. So things like turning your drawing upside down will help, and not naming your subject will help. It's a whole left brain, right brain thing. The left brain is trying to interfere as we're working, and our logic is trying to get in the way almost of what we're doing. So it does help to be completely in a right brain mode and not naming your subject that you're drawing, or not thinking about it in terms of what it actually is physically, really does help. And that's where I found that this subtractive drawing comes in very handy, because you're not looking at the lines, so to speak. You're looking at the lights and darks, and specifically the lights only, because your darks are already there. You've just got to leave them behind as you're removing. You're looking at your lights and your midtones, and you're taking them out. You're allowing the drawing to emerge from this blackness that's on your paper. So effectively you're actually not enforcing your will. As artists, we tend to subconsciously enforce our will onto our paper or our canvas, and we tend to try and make something happen as opposed to allowing it to happen. And this kind of subtractive drawing really does help us to allow the drawing to emerge out of the paper rather than forcing the drawing to happen on our terms. Okay, so I'm just going to address some of the technical aspects. Now, you'll know, if you work with charcoal quite a lot, you'll know that plain charcoal onto a piece of paper, like what I've done with the rubbing on the background, it gives you a very dark grey. It doesn't really give you a black. So if you want your charcoal to be pitch black, you've actually got to spray it and then do a second pass. Now, adversely, when we're removing the highlights, because you've put a whole lot of charcoal over your paper, your white areas are not going to be snow white as if your paper was never drawn on altogether. So the very highest highlights are going to be just slightly sort of more grey than what your pure white paper would have been had you not drawn on it. So what I did when I got to the end of this drawing, where I felt I had done all the subtracting and the drawing was relatively finished in that sense, I actually did go back, I sprayed it, and then I put some white chalk on the highlighted areas, and I went back over some of the very darkest areas with some charcoal for a second pass. Now that part of it is not really part of the whole subtractive process. That's just me enjoying the drawing process, so I just carried on beyond what I needed to carry on. So the subtractive process is about the removing. Now at this stage, as you can see, I'm actually adding white highlights. Now you can by all means go ahead and do that. That's not the issue. Just understand that that's not part of the subtractive process, because I'm now actually adding. So if you want to do a pure subtractive drawing, you wouldn't be really doing this part. But I do think that it kind of made for a nicer drawing, so I just carried on going. To me, there's nothing nicer than a drawing that shows really strong contrast between the lightest lights and the darkest darks. So it was my natural sort of instinctive way of doing things, was to just do a second pass of the charcoal to deepen it and go over some of the lighter areas of the chalk. But that part is not really necessary. So artists, I hope that you've enjoyed this little tutorial on subtractive drawing, and please by all means go ahead and practice what you've learned here and post them on the Facebook page. I'd really love to see what you guys are doing. If you don't want to post it on the timeline itself, then you can just drop it into a private message and let me know, and I'll give you my comments. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you tomorrow in day 114. In the meantime, please will you like and share, and I'll see you then. Thanks again. Bye. That's what you want to do.